Hi everyone, this is Penny from penny-astrology.com, and today I am doing a reading for the future of the United States of America. So I specifically, excuse me, have a cough, apparently, and I wanted to know how things are going to be different after the election. Where I live, it is election day, and this has been weighing very heavily on my heart. I'm really hoping for healing for our country, and I'm hoping that we can put a lot of these issues behind us and, not have them be a problem again, so that we can move forward not only with peace, but also with prosperity. So if you live in the U.S. as well, I know this has probably weighed very heavily on your heart, and it's been hard to focus on anything else lately. This has been very all-consuming and very stressful. So I'm hoping that we're going to get the wisdom and the insight that we need, at least to help prepare us for what's to come. Maybe we'll get lucky and we'll have some good news, but I am going to let the spirits just tell us what we need to know. And if we don't like the outcome, or heck, maybe we do like the outcome and we just want to make sure we keep things moving in a positive direction, then either way, we're going to do an advice reading at the end. So this is a prediction for the United States of America. What is going to happen after the election, and how's that going to compare to what's been going on in the days leading up to the election? All right, so I'm told to stop shuffling. All right, the first card we have in the past is the Eight of Coins. So this is about the web we've been weaving, so to speak. This is the situation that we've put ourselves in. This is what we've been dealing with, both in how we communicate with one another and basically in how our political game has been going, how the social construct in our country created our current situation and allowed certain things to happen. It has a lot to do with the way that our elections are run and how our social culture influenced that. In the future, we have the Four of Coins, which is it's a more stable card. It's a card of being aware that we need to be careful in the future. Being aware that, the web we weave can be a dangerous one, and we want to be especially mindful of what we've been doing. So one big difference between this card and this card is this card is solely about progress. This shows that we were very focused on accomplishing what we wanted to accomplish. We were very task-oriented, pragmatic even. I don't normally hear the word pragmatic to describe the United States, but by my own definition, I think that's what it essentially comes down to. We wanted things to have a purpose. We didn't want anything that seemed like it wasn't useful to us. And, this is us kind of almost redefining our concept of what is useful, what will keep us safe, what will create a beautiful and harmonious social environment for us, so that we can all feel a little bit more safe and we can all feel a little bit more secure, and it's no longer an issue of predator and prey like it is in this card with the spider. So that this so far I would say is a good sign. All right, so this is the card that we have in the past for actions, and this has to do with things that we were building up towards. So again, it's that focus on progress. It has a lot to do with capitalism and producing goods and seeing results come about. So that was one of the things that we were focused on. The United States can be very competitive in that they want to be the first one to produce certain things. They want to be the first ones to have accomplished certain things. But that's, again, the direction we were headed before the election. The direction we're headed after the election is apparently being represented by the devil card. If you are a Christian, I know this is a very scary card. I'm going to try to not let my own emotions or my own fears influence me in this card. And the devil card, one of the things it can represent is fear, and it more so represents the erratic behavior that can come as a result of fear. Like, for example, when people struggle with addictions, when people are battling their inner demons, it's normally because they are afraid of something and there's something that they're trying to avoid having to deal with. So what I'm seeing is things haven't really gone quite the way they were expected, and after the election there's going to be more emotional backlash because of that, more of us really having to confront those inner demons and work through things. So I know that it's especially concerning to see the little bit of fire coming up by the goat's hooves in this reading, aside from the fact that it is the devil card, because one of the things we've dealt with in the US in 2020 is fire. A lot of frickin' fire. So unfortunately, this card could be warning us that there could be more uprising in the form of fires and things of that nature. Goodness, I hope not, but let's see. All right. So in the past, economically, we have the strength card. So I feel that this is speaking of how it took a lot of faith, a lot of strength, a lot of grit to be able to weather the economic situations in the United States. The government here threw a lot of money around trying to deal with the pandemic. On an individual basis, we had people, maybe even people who had never had to struggle in poverty before, all of a sudden losing their jobs, all of a sudden having to figure out how to weather this storm. The United States has, as a whole, has a very big heart. And, that's for all of our flaws, that is kind of one thing to keep in mind, that we have a big heart. We do have a lot of courage. And we've used that courage to help us confront the financial situation that we have been facing. So in the future, we have the Father of Swords, which is not a better card. It's not a worse card. I will say it's better in the sense that it implies that we will no longer need to be strong. You know how sometimes when you look at someone and you say, oh, you're so strong. Well, the reason why you notice they're strong is because they were struggling and because they had to be strong. And I've definitely had those moments in my life. I've had a lot of people tell me how strong and brave I am. And it's because I was struggling and I had a lot I had to go through. But what this change implies, going from the Strength card to the Father of Swords, the Father of Swords is more about wisdom. It's not as much about needing to be strong. It's about being tactical and making smart decisions when it comes to money, because this is in the area of money right now. So this is about making smart decisions when it comes to money, and also seeing opportunities to make the situation better. So it's not so much about needing to be strong anymore, but it's about seeing opportunities to make the situation better. So in terms of money, I would say that the election is going to lead us in a good direction. Whoever wins, and yes, I have my own personal bias, trust me, I think everyone does, but whoever wins, it does look like after the election, we are going to be heading in a more positive direction. Now, if you are watching this video and you are planning to vote, please make sure you still vote, because tarot readings are only accurate if things continue in the direction they were already headed before you got the reading. So if you see the reading and you're like, oh, phew, everything's going to be fine, I don't have to vote anymore, then you are putting yourself and you're putting everyone else at risk of us not having this outcome. So please make sure you still vote. Just quick little disclaimer right there. Anyway, so the past emotionally, we have this butterfly rising up from the rubble, rising up from, all the difficult times, and this speaks a lot to the American idea of freedom and, having overcome oppression in the past, and a little bit of nostalgia towards that. We're always kind of going back to our roots and asking ourselves, what was this country actually supposed to be? And emotionally, that can mean different things for different people. So that's something we've been exploring a lot I would say, these past 4 years, if not even longer. And the future emotionally, okay, this is a beautiful card. This is a great reassuring sign, and it is the 10 of Cups. And this is a feeling of family, of happiness, of wholeness, of being able to see yourself in others, and being able to, see the ways that we are the same, see the ways that we are family, that we are a team, that we are actually united as a country, rather than focusing on the differences. So this is a really great, beautiful card, a very reassuring sign. Okay, now the one card here that I mentioned concern over is this Devil card. So I'm going to take a moment to look at this card, kind of focus in on it. Okay, so I do feel like this is mostly going to translate literally in a religious way, and it's going to bring up a lot of religious disagreements among citizens, and people feeling strong opinions one way or the other about whether or not religion should influence our country, and if so, in which ways should it influence our country. So there's going to be a lot of people who feel betrayed religiously, I would say, who feel that there should have been more religious action, more religious representation within the country, and these people who have spent their lives here, who have put their time and effort into this country, and then feel like their religion isn't being represented, are going to be very upset. So what I'm seeing is this card is kind of a blame card. It's one party accusing the other party of not doing what they believe is morally right. So there's a difference of morals going on here, and unfortunately, this card seems inevitable, because when there's a moral disagreement, not everybody can win. It's going to have to be one or the other, or some type of hopefully agreeing to disagree at some point. But I'm getting that this is going to be a religious group that is very upset about the outcome of what has happened, and feels betrayed, and feels that the country is headed in a bad direction. So especially if you're Catholic, since this came up as the Devil card, well, Catholic or Christian, sorry. I grew up Catholic, so that's the first one I think of. But if you are Christian, you might end up feeling like your religion is not being represented in the country the way that you had hoped that it would be. So that's just kind of a little heads up there. I'll be interested to see how this plays out, so we'll keep an eye on it. So anyway, next, as I promised, we are going to do a little bit of an advice reading. What actions will help our country, and what actions do we need to avoid? And this is, I keep these kind of general, I'm looking for the best possible outcome, and I am specifically wanting the best possible outcome that people within the United States will actually consider to be the best possible outcome. And that's the direction we want the advice to be, which is very broad. It's a lot to ask of the tarot deck, but it's a powerful source of wisdom. Okay. All right, so in terms of communication, we really need to keep things focused on the common good, on the greater good. What is good for me economically, politically, and socially is also good for my neighbor. So this is about focusing on community, on even being willing to share resources, being willing to share success. So if, for example, you have a great business, you've been very successful, and you're in a position where you're able to hire people either for small tasks like cleaning your house, or you're able to hire people to work for your company, you're in a position where you can create jobs. So this and, networking and sharing opportunities with people is really useful. If maybe you're in a position where you're struggling more and you're looking for opportunities, it's still the same thing. Networking and showing what you can offer and showing what you can contribute is important. And this is going to be in an unconventional way. This isn't going to be about applying for jobs. This is going to be about talking to your neighbors, talking to the people around you, and looking for needs that you can fill. So for example, maybe you like to make soap in your free time, and that's just a hobby that you have. Who knows? You could have a next door neighbor who cannot find a brand of soap that they like or can't get that perfect scent, and you can ask them and figure out how you can fill one of their needs for them. Now, the thing to avoid, really, this should be easy to avoid. When you're talking to people, don't be aimless, don't be shallow, don't keep it too light. Don't be afraid to go beyond the small talk. We need to have meaningful conversations. We need to show that we care about each other's well-being. So this is basically saying, don't be small, don't be scattered, don't be inconsiderate. Make sure that there's a lot of depth in the communications that you have with your neighbors and the relationships that you build in your community, because those are very important at this time. I know some people think worst case scenario, and they're like, oh, well, what if there's like a total like apocalyptic type of situation? Yes, community is especially important then, but even just with what we're facing right now, even just with it being a regular plain old pandemic, like people really do need that sense of community more now than ever. All right, so this is about our actions. This is the death card, another kind of traditionally scary, naturally alarming sort of card, because we see the skeletons and the feathers and everywhere. We're like, ew, that's gross. And then the other card that we have here in terms of actions is the Ace of Cups. So this is saying don't try to solve problems with emotions. There's some things that can't be solved. There's some things that have died that cannot be revived, that cannot be brought back. So, whether you're a company who's looking to rehire employees, don't try to compensate them by just making them feel good. And in fact, you might not be able to bring back your employees at all. You might have to just accept that things have changed. You might not be able to go back to your old job or your old way of life. Again, you might just have to accept that things have changed, because this is the death card. It shows a big change, a big transformation. And at the beginning of this pandemic, I believe it was still in March probably, I did draw a card that I shared on Instagram, and it was the death card. And that was the message that we needed at the time, that, life as we knew it was essentially over. So again, I'm sorry, I know this is hard for a lot of people to accept, but this is telling us that things are not going to go back to normal. I feel like I need a little bit of a break after that. I never like giving people bad news. It's the only really stressful thing about being a reader. Okay, so in terms of money, this follows the theme of the death card, and this is saying that we need to start something new. And this can be a very beautiful card. It's about beginning anew. It's about creation of something that's totally fresh, totally different. And metaphorically, I always literally think of gardening when I see this card. I think of planting seeds and growing a tree, and that's just me kind of being symbolic in the way that I view life, Setting an intention is like planting a seed, and something can grow from that. So this has to do with new businesses, new ways of making a living, and new ways of viewing money and resources. So what not to do is the Moon card. So this is saying that really, in terms of money, we need action right now. We need that kind of Aries energy that is ready to start something new. So even if you're not an Aries, we all have Aries somewhere in our charts, and we can all activate new energy and get started on a new foot all over again. And what not to do is don't just sit around waiting. Don't just sit around processing too much, because we're at a point where we need action. So if you feel any sense of uncertainty, or you're asking yourself, why did this happen to me? Why did I have to lose my job this year? This card is actually telling you to stop asking those questions. And this, I'm gonna call myself out right here right now, because one of the things this is probably telling you not to do is don't even bother getting an astrology reading on your career right now. I hate saying this because ironically this is how I make money. It's by giving people astrology readings, but this is saying you don't need to explore your inner world as much right now. You need to just take action and create something, and operate on instincts. This is a year for survival, and not many businesses have really survived, and especially not many have continued to thrive with what's been going on this year. So this is kind of a survival moment where you just need to act. You don't need to sit there and continue to ask the spirits, what is it that I'm actually meant to do? You need to just go out there, find the needs of your neighbors and your community, and find how you can fulfill those needs for other people in your life. So you don't necessarily need a career reading. You don't need your spirit guides to tell you what to do. This is a moment to just act on instincts and focus on surviving and thriving. Okay, so this is in terms of emotions, and this will kind of relate back to how we communicate with our neighbors and the other people in our community. And this is essentially saying act with a sense of modesty. None of us are so high and mighty that we've been totally immune to what's been going on. You don't need to have your pride conceal your pain anymore. One of the great things about this year is that we've all experienced at least one of the same sources of pain this year. We've all dealt with the fear of a pandemic and the fear of a changing world, and many of us, I don't even want to say most of us because I don't have a percentage on this, but many of us have lost our jobs during this time. So you don't need to operate with pride. You can act with modesty. You can act with grace. And even if you're in a time where you are suffering financially, if you're living in poverty, you still deserve respect, and it doesn't say any less about you. Okay, and then we have the same card that came up in the other reading, and this came up in the past for the other reading, and it's telling us what not to do. So basically, don't try to go back to the past. Don't try to go back to the way that things were. Don't try to put yourself back in that situation where you're only focused on progress, because you do need to be a little bit more focused on the community and on relating to other people emotionally, and being vulnerable. And it's not all about progress anymore. You don't need to feel obligated to do any specific thing. You don't need to feel obligated to justify your existence, because you are valuable, and you do deserve respect, and you do deserve to be treated well no matter what you have faced this year. I mean, we're all in this together. We're all a community. And I think we have a lot of good things coming our way, even after a hard year. I'm not seeing that our struggles are 100% over. I definitely still saw that there was going to be a struggle between religious groups in the United States and how that should play out in terms of government. The money situations, the economic struggles, they're not going to be solved overnight, but I am seeing that we are better off kind of finding our own individual solutions and taking charge of our own lives rather than sitting around and waiting for someone else to do it for us. So even though we do have some good economic plans that should be coming into place for us this coming year, that should be able to help us through the remainder of this pandemic, this is ultimately about taking personal responsibility, and it's not about doing it alone. It's about doing it with the feedback of others, with the help of others, and just seeing how you can fit in with their life in a way that can help you financially, and then maybe it can help them financially too. So anyway, that was my reading for the future of the United States and what's coming up for us after the election. I'm pretty happy with the results and what I saw. It gave me a sense of ease. Now remember, we still all have to do our part in order to keep things moving in a positive direction. And I know it's so hard to believe that after some of the bad things that have happened, that we are actually going to come out of this, that we are actually going to see better days, but it is going to get better. So thank you for joining me here today. If you want to see more videos, I do pick a card videos and I do astrology videos. Go ahead and hit that subscribe button, hit the notification bell as well. And if you check the links in the description, you'll see my website if you ever decide you want to get a reading, and my Facebook so you can see updates that I post on there. So thanks so much for joining me. Bye-bye.